The private airport terminal buzzed with a subtle energy, a blend of exclusivity and controlled chaos. Sleek leather chairs lined the pristine waiting area, where travelers in designer suits scrolled through their phones or sipped on artisanal coffee. The soft hum of distant jet engines seeped through the large glass windows, offering a view of gleaming private planes awaiting their passengers. Everything about the terminal exuded luxury, from the polished marble floors to the impeccably dressed staff gliding from one task to another. Among the travelers stood Sarah, her presence almost out of place amidst the opulence. Heavily pregnant and visibly tired, she clutched a small travel bag in one hand and instinctively rested her other hand on her rounded belly. Her simple yet neat outfit hinted at practicality over indulgence. Despite the exhaustion etched on her face, she carried herself with quiet grace, her eyes scanning the room for direction. Nearby, a group of flight attendants prepared for their upcoming flights. One of them, Linda, moved with an air of practiced elegance and an unmistakable superiority. Her sharp gaze swept over Sarah, narrowing slightly. To Linda, Sarah didn't fit the profile of the usual clientele, and her lips curled into a subtle, dismissive smirk. Sarah approached the sleek check-in desk, her steps slow but steady. She glanced around, feeling slightly out of place amidst the polished surroundings and the impeccably dressed travelers. Clutching her boarding pass tightly, she took a deep breath, summoning her confidence despite the knot of nerves tightening in her stomach. Linda, stationed behind the counter, immediately noticed her. Dressed in a tailored uniform and exuding confidence, Linda's eyes swept over Sarah's worn sneakers and simple maternity dress. A faint smirk tugged at the corners of her mouth as she leaned slightly over the desk. "Ma'am," Linda began, her tone saccharine yet condescending, "I think you might be lost. The economy terminal is down the hall and to the left." She gestured vaguely in the wrong direction, her expression suggesting she found the situation mildly amusing. Sarah blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "I'm not lost," she replied softly, holding out her boarding pass. "I'm here for the private jet." Linda's eyebrows shot up as she glanced at the pass, her smirk deepening. "Oh, really?" she said, dragging out the words with a hint of disbelief. "Well, isn't that unexpected?" She made no move to process Sarah's check-in, her demeanor dripping with thinly veiled skepticism. Sarah, steadying herself, held out her boarding pass once more. Her voice was calm but firm. "I'm not lost. This is the correct terminal, and I'm boarding the private jet." Linda's sharp gaze flicked to the boarding pass and back to Sarah, her smirk widening. "A private jet?" she echoed, her tone laced with disbelief. "That's ambitious, don't you think?" She let out a soft, mocking laugh, loud enough to draw the attention of a few nearby staff members. "I assure you, I'm at the right place," Sarah said, her grip on the boarding pass tightening. Despite her exhaustion, she refused to let Linda's condescension rattle her. Linda leaned back, crossing her arms as if entertaining a joke. "Look, sweetheart, these jets are usually reserved for, a certain clientele." She let her words hang in the air, her meaning painfully clear. "Are you sure you're not mistaking this for some kind of tour?" By now, a few other passengers had turned their heads, pretending not to listen but clearly intrigued. Some exchanged awkward glances, while others looked away, their discomfort palpable. Sarah's cheeks flushed, but she held her ground. "I'm certain," she said quietly, the heat of humiliation building behind her resolve. Sarah took a slow, deep breath, determined not to let her emotions get the better of her. The weight of Linda's words hung heavy, but Sarah refused to crack. Still, the fatigue from her pregnancy and the stress of travel pressed down on her like a storm cloud. She could feel her heart racing, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped her boarding pass. What Linda didn't know, and couldn't see, was the story behind Sarah's quiet strength. For months, her husband Michael had been away on an extended business trip, working tirelessly to secure a better future for their growing family. The time apart had been hard, and this trip was more than just a journey. It was a reunion. Michael had insisted on sending the private jet to ensure her comfort, knowing how exhausting traveling could be in her condition. But here she was, being judged by someone who saw only her outward appearance. Sarah blinked back the sting of tears. She wasn't going to give Linda the satisfaction of seeing her upset. Straightening her shoulders, she said calmly, I'd appreciate it if you could process my boarding pass. I'm tired, and I'd like to board my flight." Her voice didn't waver, even as Linda's smirk persisted. The soft roar of engines signaled the arrival of the sleek private jet, its polished silver body gleaming in the afternoon sun. A staff member stepped forward with a clipboard, announcing that passengers for the flight could now proceed to board. The terminal stirred with movement as well-dressed individuals gathered their belongings and began lining up. Sarah stood up, her back aching from sitting too long, and adjusted her bag. She took a step toward the boarding line, but Linda, stationed near the entrance, ignored her entirely. Instead, she smiled brightly at the other passengers, waving them forward with an air of exaggerated courtesy. "Right this way, sir. Have a wonderful flight, ma'am," Linda said smoothly, her tone dripping with warmth that vanished the moment her eyes landed on Sarah. When Sarah approached, Linda turned her back, pretending to be occupied with something on her clipboard. Sarah hesitated, unsure whether to speak up. Then, just as she decided to move forward anyway, a tall, sharply dressed man stepped off the plane and into view. His tailored suit fit perfectly, exuding quiet authority. His eyes scanned the terminal, narrowing slightly as he spotted Sarah. A warm smile replaced his neutral expression as he strode confidently toward her. As the man approached, his expression transformed from professional focus to one of unmistakable warmth and concern. "Sarah," he called, his voice filled with a tenderness that made heads turn. He was Michael, Sarah's husband, and to everyone's surprise, the owner of the private jet. Michael reached her in a few swift strides, his polished shoes clicking softly against the terminal floor. He immediately took the bag from Sarah's hand, his brow furrowed with worry. "Are you okay? Did you have to wait long?" he asked, his tone gentle as he placed a supportive hand on her back. Sarah smiled faintly, her relief evident. "I'm fine," she replied softly, though the tension from the encounter still lingered. Linda, standing nearby, froze in place. Her eyes widened as recognition dawned, the smug confidence draining from her face. She had seen Michael's photo in business magazines. He was a renowned entrepreneur and the jet's owner. The realization hit her like a lightning bolt. The woman she'd dismissed and mocked was married to the very man whose plane she worked on. Linda's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. Her stunned expression spoke volumes as she watched Michael fuss over Sarah with genuine care, her own arrogance laid bare. Michael's warm concern for Sarah turned to a sharp, discerning glance as he noticed Linda standing awkwardly nearby. Her stiff posture and flushed face spoke volumes, and Sarah's hesitance earlier suddenly made more sense. Michael's jaw tightened, but he kept his tone measured and calm as he addressed her. "Excuse me," he said, his voice firm but composed. "I couldn't help but notice the way my wife was treated just now." Linda's eyes widened, her composure faltering. "I didn't mean," she began, her voice shaking slightly. Michael raised a hand to gently cut her off. "You assumed she didn't belong here because of how she looks, didn't you?" he asked, his gaze unwavering. "Let me remind you that everyone deserves respect, regardless of appearances. Sarah is not only my wife, but also the most important person in my life. This kind of behavior is unacceptable." Linda's face turned crimson, her earlier smugness replaced with visible shame. She stammered, "I'm so sorry, sir. Ma'am, I didn't mean any harm. I was just mistaken." The quiet in the terminal was deafening as other staff and passengers looked on. Michael's words had struck a chord, leaving Linda to grapple with the weight of her actions. Michael turned back to Sarah, his expression softening instantly. "Let's get you on board," he said gently, offering his arm for support. He carried her bag effortlessly, guiding her toward the sleek private jet. As they reached the boarding stairs, the other staff members, now acutely aware of the situation, scrambled to make up for the earlier mistreatment. One opened the door with a warm smile, while another rushed forward to offer Sarah a hand. "Welcome aboard, ma'am," they said, their tones polite and respectful. Sarah accepted the gestures graciously, though the memory of Linda's earlier disdain lingered in her mind. Michael helped her settle into the plush leather seat, adjusting it for her comfort and ensuring she had everything she needed. "Are you okay now?" he asked softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She nodded, her smile faint but genuine. "I am. Thanks to you." Meanwhile, Linda stood off to the side, her usual confidence shattered. She watched the scene unfold, the reality of her actions sinking in. Her judgment and assumptions had not only been wrong but humiliatingly exposed. In the quiet of her reflection, Linda resolved to think twice before making such snap judgments again. As Sarah settled into her seat, she couldn't help but feel a deep sense of relief. The warmth of Michael's support enveloped her, erasing the sting of earlier humiliation. His quiet strength and unwavering belief in her made her heart swell with gratitude. For the first time in hours, she could breathe easily, free from the weight of judgment and doubt. Looking out the window at the vast blue sky, Sarah reflected on the experience. The encounter with Linda had been a stark reminder of how quickly people could jump to conclusions based on appearance alone. But Michael's actions had shown her that love and understanding could break down those barriers. The terminal was still bustling, but Sarah's world had shifted. She thought about the passengers who witnessed the situation, wondering if they too had been inspired to see beyond the surface. The message was clear. Kindness and empathy could transform moments of adversity into opportunities for growth and connection. As the jet began to taxi down the runway, Sarah smiled softly to herself. This wasn't just a journey to reunite with her husband, it was a step toward a more compassionate world. The story of Linda's mistake would stay with her, not as a source of bitterness, but as a reminder to always extend grace to others, no matter how different they may seem. Thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you enjoyed the story of kindness and transformation. If you did, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more heartwarming and inspiring stories. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to share more with you.